It borrows and lends from many different fields, be that sociology, psychology, anthropology, neuroscience, behavioral economics. It kind of borrows and lends from all these disciplines, ultimately just to help us understand and influence human behavior better.
I'm Emma from Market Research Society, and I'm here today with Ben, who is a good friend of MRS, but also somewhat of an expert when it comes to behavioural science.
Yeah, so I've been working in behavioural science for the past 12 years now. So I've worked across many different sectors, be that kind of financial services, pharma, healthcare, retail, FMCG. I regularly deliver kind of training in applied behavioural science and behaviour change for MRS. I recently started my own behavioural science startup called Peasy, daunting and exciting in equal measure. And we help companies make it easy for their customers, consumers, and employees to make better choices. Personally, a bit of a lean startup enthusiast and love all things cycling. So if anyone at the conference wants to talk about behavioural science and cycling and startups, that would be my dream conversations.
What are the main advantages do you think that it has over other research methods?
First and foremost, I think it really helps with empathy. I think whenever I do the training course at the MRS and certainly kind of start our relationships with our kind of partners, we always talk about, I think there's a tendency for people to overestimate the extent to which people think about things and underestimate the extent to which they make decisions without thinking at all. Decision making is very much like guesswork. And I think understanding and having that point of empathy that people basically guess their way around decisions gone as well beyond kind of traditional research methods that focus on what people say or what they think or what they remember or in many cases misremember, helps us to go beyond that. And I'm sure we'll hear a lot about the say-do gap at the conference, where what people say they do and what they actually do is very different. And I think it's helped us to go beyond that and uncover all those things that are unseen, like the behavioral biases, the mental shortcuts, our emotions and context that influence our behavior. And there are a lot more kind of research methods that are coming to market now that help us to better capture that context, be it the physical, the emotional, the social and cultural context. And ultimately for me, because we branch both insight and design, it helps us to inform kind of better design decisions, essentially.
It's kind of a big topic in market research at the minute, isn't it? But yeah. Do you find that clients are asking about it more as well?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, it's really strange because I started my career kind of back in like 2007, 8. And it was just before Nudge kind of was published. And if we'd held like a behavioral science conference at that time, I'm not sure how many people would have attended or really got it. I think what happened was like Nudge and a lot of other publications made it just really accessible. So it came out from like lecture theatres and academia into the real world. There were countless publications, podcasts now, TED Talks, even Hollywood movies that feature behavioral science. Previously, we'd have never had briefs that feature kind of words like biases, heuristics, behavioral science, and it does feature a lot more, be that in research and insight or design briefs and creative briefs. It does appear in a lot more conversations and hope it's here to stay.
So behavioral science has this enormous potential to tackle, the biggest challenges of our time, things like climate change and public health. Does that, does it excite you? Does it scare you? What do you think the future looks like?
It's certainly exciting, I think. And as you said, Emma, I mean, there's some huge challenges. I guess where kind of possibly scared or kind of things that kind of unnerve me a bit, I guess, is kind of that manipulation. I know a lot of people say all about behavioral science and the ethics of behavioral science. And I think for me, it's always, does it align with both kind of the end user, be that your consumer, customer, employee, and our client's interests? And if those two things are aligned, great. It's when they're not aligned that kind of unnerves me, that kind of sense that they're kind of manipulating people that aren't in necessarily their best interest. I think that things that excite me really is going from the academic theory and kind of models and kind of all the language around that to actually kind of the application in the real world. Actually, let's just do these things, let's test, iterate, and scale the things that do work. I think you learn just as much about what kind of doesn't work as what does work. And I think that's really valuable. So I think hopefully kind of the culture of experimentation that really excites me in kind of rapid testing and learning fast and going from that theorizing to more doing. market research, a lot of it was stumped probably like 10 years ago, when a lot of insights revealed that actually the way we do things back then wasn't particularly great in terms of you're looking at understanding behavior. So I think there's a lot more kind of advances in tech and certainly kind of digital ethnography, which helps us to better capture kind of behavior in the moment and kind of the contextual influences. So I think advances in kind of that tech and those platforms is really exciting as well. And hopefully, yeah, for the future, it's more about kind of experimentation, integration with other kind of fields, be it kind of UX and CX, design thinking, and those types of disciplines to actually put it into practice.
So you'll actually be chairing the MRS Behavioural Science Conference in September. It's an in-person event in London. Who are you hoping to see there?
Seeing people in person would be great. It's probably a bit more nerve-wracking than doing it behind a screen remotely, but I'm preparing myself for that. Definitely looking forward to hearing from Facebook. We're looking forward to hearing from GSK and HSBC and VFP. Really excited to hear from the team at NatWest. I've known them for a long time, and they're always like kind of at the forefront of things, and have been kind of applying behavioral science for kind of many years now. The other highlight as well I picked out was the FSA. So I think they talk about running trials in the wild. So I know that comes up so much in the training courses that we do at MRS. People say, well, how do you kind of experiment? How do you run trials and tests that aren't always academic kind of, but actually kind of more practical and commercial? So I'm really looking forward to it, and we've got a great line of speakers. And I think, Emma, as we've discussed, try to go a lot more kind of client side and hear from actually those people kind of put it into practice in the real world, be that in comms, experience design, product services. So I think hopefully as well, people see the relevance of it beyond research and insight, and moving on to kind of how it can inform design decisions and kind of things like that as well. So yeah, can't wait.